This is CBC Vancouver News.
People will be able to buy with a smaller down payment. Their monthly payments will be lower and will be affordable.
The BC NDP touts a home ownership plan to help middle-income families, but critics worry about potential policy abuse.
How will transparency be enforced?
Plus,
I almost broke out in tears because I could see a dead coho.
First Nations in the Fraser Valley say a large spill has left thousands of fish dead near Chilliwack. And
my car broke down 3 times on the EG parking lot 31.
Vancouver's mayor says he wants to open a new community policing center in Gastown amid public safety concerns and drug use.
I think what's more important is that you have trained security and understanding drug addiction and things like that.
Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. A fast-growing wildfire in the United States forced a brief evacuation order today for about 150 rural properties in BC's West Kootenay region. But hours after the order was issued, it was downgraded. This video was taken this afternoon. Huge plumes of smoke could be seen by residents who live near the city of Grand Forks. The Regional District of Kootenay Boundary says officials in BC were notified of the fire by their counterparts in Washington state, where it originated. The BC Wildfire Service says crews are working to put out a small spot fire created by embers blowing north, which was burning just west of Grand Forks.
We do also have an additional unit crew that has been deployed to the border that are helping our American agency partners work on their suppression efforts.
She says firefighters are in a position that will allow them to respond quickly should the wildfire cross the border. For now, the regional district says the threat of wildfire has diminished, but roughly 700 properties remain on evacuation alert. The BC NDP is promising more help for middle-income families looking to enter the housing market. Leader David Eby has unveiled a plan where the government would finance 40% of the price for British Columbians buying their first home. But as Mir Baines reports, there are worries the pledge could be abused.
BC NDP leader David Eby stood outside a townhouse complex in the pouring rain to tout his plan to make home ownership more achievable for families trying to buy their first home.
A benefit of this plan means that people will be able to buy with a smaller down payment. Their monthly payments will be lower and will be affordable, and taxpayers will be protected.
The idea is that government financing and low-cost land would allow buyers to purchase units 40% below market price. Buyers would still need to qualify for a mortgage for 60% of the value. In turn, the province would register a second mortgage for the remaining 40%. Later, if the owner sells the unit, the province would get 40% of the appreciation in the value of the home. The BC NDP says the plan will help 5,000 middle-income people a year for 5 years. The price tag is $1.29 billion.
This program isn't going to meet the needs of every British Columbian. There'll be very strict asset rules, income rules for people to qualify who might not otherwise be able to get into the housing market.
The party says the government would partner with nonprofits, local government, First Nations, and non-market housing providers to buy land and contribute to projects. The director of the city program at Simon Fraser University says the devil is in the details.
The question will be how these policies will be implemented, and also how will transparency be enforced. As we've seen with additional stories coming from the CBC, the enforcement, the implementation of these policies are also up for abuse.
In March of last year, it came to light in a lawsuit that more than a dozen people, including a real estate agent, allegedly abused a government program meant to help middle-income families find affordable housing. At least 13 people allegedly lied to get a crack at below-market price units in a Victoria condominium building.
The BC NDP's home ownership plan is just one of a suite of policies it says is aimed at delivering 300,000 middle-class homes over the next decade. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
The BC Green Party is renewing its commitment to the carbon tax. It says if it's elected, it will increase carbon rebate checks, eliminate compliance loopholes, and make sure big polluters pay more. Leader Sonia Furstenau says the plan would put more money in people's pockets and help communities invest in climate resiliency.
In 2021, we saw that cost from the atmospheric river, the heat dome, the fires, and that the estimated cost to BC's economy that year was up to $17 billion.
Political leaders at both the federal and provincial level have distanced themselves from carbon pricing in recent months, citing affordability and possible impacts on the economy. Furstenau says under the Greens, the tax system would become more predictable, fair, and transparent. And on the island, the riding of Nanaimo is being redrawn. Held by the NDP since 2005, it is now split in two: Nanaimo Lancefield to the north and Nanaimo Gabriola Island to the south. We took a rainy walk in the city to ask voters about their priorities.
What I see in the world around me in our country, I'm just seeing a lot of people struggling financially right now.
Cost of living for sure. I feel like a lot of my friends, people my age, were struggling in that area, and it would be nice to just see that relief a little bit more for sure.
I think my number one concern is looking to the future for our grandchildren. So climate change is a big concern. Second to that is inflation and what it's doing to our fixed incomes and our savings. And thirdly is how can we help as we age out of volunteerism?
For me, it's looking getting some program sorted out for these homeless people who are everywhere in every city downtown, and there's words about finding suitable housing for them, suitable care for them. I wish something would be positively done for these people.
A little bit too much infighting or backstabbing, I guess, for lack of a better name. I'd like to see more sticking to the issues.
Right now, mostly childcare. I'm a single mom. I work full-time. I'm a full-time student, and I don't have any childcare. It's expensive. It's hard to find.
Crime seems to be a bit of an issue. It does seem to be picking up more. And then people's public safety, but I think that might tie into getting people mental health. So people that are feeling unstable aren't lashing out and possibly attacking somebody. We've had murders downtown Nanaimo here that were very gruesome, and I don't think that Nanaimo is the same city that I grew up in when I was a little boy here back in the 90s.
Homicide investigators have been deployed to New Westminster, where police say a woman was found dead under suspicious circumstances. Officers were called to a home on Salter Street in the Queensborough neighborhood around 5 o'clock Tuesday evening. When they arrived, a 38-year-old woman was found dead. Homicide investigators are working with local police to determine a cause of death. Anyone with information is asked to call IHIT. Mounties are showing off several seizures of drugs and cash in two Metro Vancouver cities after officers busted what they believe to be organized drug trafficking operations. Burnaby RCMP say 2 men and 2 women between the ages of 21 and 24 face a combined 28 drug and gun charges. Police say they uncovered nearly 1 kilogram of illicit fentanyl, meth, and cocaine. And in Surrey, police say they seized guns, drugs, and explosives from a home that was identified as a problem residence in the spring. A search warrant was executed in August and led to the arrest of 12 people. A second search warrant was executed at a different property where police say they found more weapons and drugs. They haven't confirmed whether the seizures in both Burnaby and Surrey are believed to be connected. Amid public safety concerns and open drug use in the Gastown area, Vancouver's mayor is working with the Vancouver Police to open a community policing station. And as Karis Hogg reports, the news is being welcomed by residents and some business owners.
Walking down Water Street in the heart of Gastown, these pedestrians say they feel safe.
We've been here several times. We feel perfectly safe. It's very sad to see the drug addicts, but we've got to remember they're somebody's son and daughters, and we haven't been
bothered with them, so no.
Do you find Gastown safe, like when you're down here?
I think it's okay.
But some people who live and work in Gastown feel differently.
My car broke down 3 times in the EG parking lot 31, basically breaking every month.
Now we have people breaking into our building.
Into our building and stuff. So yeah, it's a concern.
Because they're homeless.
So the cops are doing what they can do down here, but they can't be everywhere at once. Okay, so if they had more police presence, that would be really good.
That's exactly what is being promised by Mayor Ken Sim and the Vancouver Police Department, in the form of a new community policing center for the neighborhood and increased police presence in the area.
Until it gets up and running, we are going to add more officers to have more of a presence down there to help as we wait for longer-term solutions that actually get to the root cause of these challenges that we have.
The move is being welcomed by the local Business Improvement Society, and the executive director hopes it will incorporate more wraparound services like mental health supports.
There are other needs that also have to be met, and so those are the things that we're going to call on in building what we're calling a better service model for our community.
David Jones owns vinyl records on Water Street and thinks policing is important as long as they're trained properly.
I think what's more important is that you have trained security and understanding drug addiction and things like that. So the way they act helps teach me and how to deal with these situations.
No timeline has been shared for an opening of the new policing center. Karis Hogg, CBC News, Vancouver.
First Nations in the Fraser Valley are finding thousands of fish dead in the Hope Slough near Chilliwack. They say the reason is a large spill. Community members from the Cheam and Squaw First Nations discovered the spill on Monday and found juvenile salmon and endangered Salish suckers among the dead fish. They say this spill could possibly wipe out a year's worth of coho spawn, and the Cheam say the spill may be related to agriculture and farming activities upstream.
I almost broke out in tears because I could see a dead coho, the little ones that were all lined up along the bank here, and it's very sad for us because we consider ourselves as salmon people. We consider them as our relatives.
The community say they have been trying to restore the salmon stocks and clean up the waterway for many years. Fall storm season is set to begin in our province, and BC Hydro is warning power outages could be more frequent and more widespread this autumn. Not because of wind and the rain, though. As Michelle Gassoub reports, it's more about the impact that a multi-year drought could have on our infrastructure.
Just like that, it's a return to rainy season. And with fall storms around the corner, there's a warning from BC Hydro, not about this rain, but about the drought.
It's continuing to put local vegetation under stress, so damaging roots, trees, and soil in many parts of the province.
A report from the utility is warning people across BC to brace for widespread power outages in the days and weeks ahead. It comes as a series of atmospheric rivers are set to hit the province.
So trees weakened by years of drought can be more susceptible to wind and stormy weather, and could be at risk of falling over into our infrastructure, contributing to power outages. So we do have in-house meteorologists, and they're warning about this elevated risk of power outages in the event of a windstorm this fall.
According to Hydro, Vancouver Island and northern BC are at the highest risk. A statement from the Vancouver Park Board says it doesn't anticipate drought conditions will impact trees' ability to survive storms here. But the City of North Vancouver says it's actively monitoring trees and removing those that could come down.
Our arborists have been out in the field and they've been going around and checking the trees and assessing them.
And we've started on a mitigation program. So we look at options to retain trees wherever possible, but if need be, we do have to remove some, and currently that program's in effect.
A quick transition from drought to rain can also increase the risk of flooding, but those rainy conditions that helped weaken wildfires over the summer are also likely to ease some of the risk now.
This year was a little bit unique, though. It was a drought partly because of the low snowpack, but we did have some precipitation events in July and August. So it wasn't to say that it's been bone dry compared to several other years last year or 2022 as well. The worst case scenario is actually just having storm after storm after storm.
A reminder that the impacts of a hot, dry summer are felt well into the fall. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
As the province heads to the polls next month, the BC Conservative Party leader is sharing how he would tackle BC's biggest issues. That's next. BC Conservative leader John Rustad has taken the party from no seats in the legislature to neck and neck with the BC NDP in recent polls. But in order to become premier, the rural politician needs to win seats in Metro Vancouver and on Vancouver Island. Mayor Baines reports on how he plans to do it.
John Rustad is a small-town guy with big ambition. Born and raised in Prince George, his start in politics came after being faced with a decision on whether to leave BC and relocate his forestry-based consulting business to Calgary.
And I thought, no, I don't want to have to leave British Columbia. And that left me with two options. I either just live with it or I had to get involved and try to change it.
He likes to connect with people one-on-one, volunteering to take photos for strangers.
Ultimately, what it came down to was the fact that you could actually help people.
John Rustad.
Rustad, who is MLA for Nechako Lakes in northern BC, is a former Minister of Aboriginal Relations and Reconciliation under Christy Clark. Now he's on a bigger stage. Will his plain talk and rural roots translate to votes? He's had a meteoric rise in a few months. 2 years ago, Rustad was kicked out of the BC Liberals, now BC United, by leader Kevin Falcon after social media posts questioning climate science. Unfazed, he found a new political home, joining the BC Conservatives and becoming the party's leader. An idea that was discussed more than 20 years ago with former caucus colleague and BC Liberal cabinet minister Bill Bennett, who described him as an out-of-the-box thinker.
We did have a conversation about our frustrations with the BC Liberal Party and whether one of us might someday end up, with the BC Conservatives and might even end up as leader.
Since becoming leader last year, Rustad has been galvanizing the right and fast. As the sole BC Conservative in the House, he attracted more MLAs from his old party and support. Then a major shift, a deal with BC United. Leader Kevin Falcon agreed to suspend its campaign after an agreement with Rustad.
This is the right thing for us as a party.
Rustad is resourceful. He's putting his message out through the airwaves. Rustad has been interviewed by polarizing psychologist Jordan Peterson. There are questions over who his advisors are behind the scenes and whether his position on some issues is too extreme.
Everyone was kind of wondering, well, who is whispering in John's ear? I understand he's got a couple of young men who he trusts.
Here, Rustad is shaking hands with Vancouver is dying filmmaker Aaron Gunn, who is running for the federal Conservatives, and posing with federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. Still, Rustad says his #1 advisor is his wife, Kim, who he met at a theater production and married in 1995. Still, to win, the BC Conservatives need to crack riding-rich Metro Vancouver, including Surrey and Vancouver Island. A political strategist says the key is engaging young voters.
If the Conservatives can attract this younger demographic, that this is their path to victory.
In Surrey, he's been aligning on initiatives by Mayor Brenda Locke, who has been at odds with the BC government over policing.
Brenda and I have had numerous conversations about things. I think she wants to see what's best for Surrey, and certainly Surrey is a huge focus for us.
Away from the crowds, his pet gray parrot at his home near Vanderhoof keeps him grounded. But those moments will be harder to find as Election Day approaches. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Here we have a shot of BC Place earlier tonight where the Whitecaps won the Canadian Championship against Toronto FC. Darius will have our full forecast next.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a look at our weather. A little bit of a wetter day today, Darius.
Yeah, that's right, Janella. And this is earlier today, but you can see that moisture streaming into the south coast, the atmospheric river that was hitting the central coast, not dropping nearly as much rain down here. A lot of that moisture had already fallen, but definitely seeing some serious impacts. Now, that's not the only thing on the way. This may look like an atmospheric river, but really, this is the remnants of a typhoon that hit Korea and Japan earlier this week, really over the weekend. And now its remnants are coming here. Very strong storm system. Expect to see a lot of rain and very, very strong winds for parts of the coast, particularly the central coast and the North Island. But really, those strong winds are going to be felt up and down the coast and the island. So be ready for that. Also coming with it, some rain. Again, the winds are the main story, but don't forget the rain. A lot of that coming as well. Tomorrow morning arriving for parts of the island, then continuing to make its way down the island and to the lower mainland later in the day, then continuing into those overnight hours in many places, but becoming a lot more sporadic, coming in and out a little bit more, but still could be heavy at times. Then we continue to see some showers in some parts of the Sunshine Coast and the island into Friday, but for the most part, we're looking a lot drier. Here in Vancouver, things will be a lot more sunny as well as we get especially a little bit into the midday parts of Friday. But if we take a look across the province, if we zoom out there, you can see that the storms that we've had today not going to return tomorrow in many parts of the interior. Maybe some convective showers in a few places, but not looking to see, sorry, not convective showers, some showers in some places in the interior, but not looking to be nearly as exciting as all those thunderstorms today. But again, big system hitting the coast, some more rain for the central coast, which has already gotten, in some places, 250, 300 millimeters of rain this week. So definitely still an exciting week ahead. And again, I mentioned those winds. Take a look here. Look at how high those winds are gusting, especially up in the central coast tomorrow. So be ready for some excitement there, I would say. But temperatures, nothing too exciting happening there. So let's just skip ahead to the sunshine across much of the province, although again, still some showers in many places. And lastly, Janella, our 5-day forecast for Vancouver. We're looking at some rain tomorrow, then some sunshine, and then a bit of a mix of everything.
Seems like fall is definitely in the air. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
That is your late news. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.